He laughed in my face as he fired me on my birthday. I had spent 6 months training the new girl, pouring every ounce of knowledge I had into making sure she would succeed. And now, standing in that cold office under the buzzing fluorescent lights, my manager smirked and said, "We can pay her half your salary." The words stung, but it was the way he laughed afterward that burned into me. It wasn't just about saving money. It was about disrespect. It was about him thinking I was disposable. I remember forcing a smile, nodding politely, and saying, "Good luck." That was it. No fight. No begging. Just a calm smile. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. The next Monday rolled around, and I wasn't there. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up to that dreaded alarm or spend an hour in traffic rehearsing conversations with people who didn't value me. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, my laptop open, and a plan brewing in my head. I had been working at that company for almost a decade, climbing my way up from an intern who fetched coffee to the person everyone relied on. I had been the one who knew every system, every client, every detail that kept the company running. And I had been naive enough to think that made me valuable. But that laugh, the one that told me I meant nothing, was the spark I needed to finally put myself first. The first few days felt like a blur. My phone blew up with messages from coworkers asking what happened, some shocked, some pretending to be supportive while secretly relieved I was gone. But as the texts came in, something else happened. People started reaching out for help. The systems I managed weren't working the way they should. The new girl didn't know how to fix them. Clients were getting frustrated, deadlines were slipping, and panic was starting to spread through the office. I smiled to myself, because I had seen this coming. You see, I wasn't just an employee. I was the glue that held everything together. And they didn't even realize how much I did until I was gone. That week, I updated my resume and sent out applications, but I also did something else. I started reaching out to clients, the ones I had built relationships with over the years. We had shared late-night phone calls during crises, worked through impossible deadlines together, celebrated their wins. They trusted me, not the company. And when I told them I was no longer with the firm, they didn't just wish me luck. They asked where I was going next. By the end of the second week, I had 3 job offers on the table, each one paying me more than my old salary. But there was one offer in particular that made me stop and smile. A competing company, a direct rival of my old employer, wanted to bring me on, not just as an employee, but as a lead project manager. They wanted me to handle some of their biggest accounts. And some of those accounts happened to belong to my former company. The decision wasn't hard. I accepted the offer, and in less than a month, I was sitting in a new office with a better view, a bigger paycheck, and coworkers who actually respected me. Meanwhile, back at my old job, chaos was spreading like wildfire. The new girl was drowning. The manager who had laughed at me was scrambling to cover mistakes, taking calls from angry clients who were threatening to pull their business. It wasn't long before some of those clients called me, asking if I could personally oversee their projects. And because I was now with a competitor, I was more than happy to oblige. The first time I saw my old manager again was during a client meeting. He walked in, confident and smug like always, but the second he saw me sitting at the table in my new company's suit, his face dropped. He tried to play it cool, acting like my presence didn't bother him, but the way his voice trembled when he spoke gave him away. The client, who had already been frustrated with him, leaned toward me during the meeting and whispered, "I'm so glad you're here. Things are finally going to get done." That meeting was the first of many. One by one, clients started moving their business over to my new company. Every time they switched, I imagined him sitting in his office, staring at the numbers, realizing his decision to replace me with someone cheaper had cost him more than he could have imagined. The satisfaction wasn't in watching him fail. It was in knowing I had been underestimated, discarded, and laughed at, and now I was thriving while his empire crumbled. But the real revenge came about 6 months later. By then, I had settled into my new role, built a stronger reputation, and grown my network. One afternoon, I got a LinkedIn message from the new girl, the one I had trained. She was kind and hardworking, and none of this was her fault. Her message was polite, almost timid. She asked if there were any openings at my company because she was miserable at her current job. She said the manager was impossible to work for and that he constantly blamed her for things she had never been taught. I responded kindly, telling her to send me her resume. Within a few weeks, she joined my team. The day she walked into our office, she hugged me and thanked me for giving her a chance. I smiled and told her she had always deserved better. And in that moment, I realized something important: revenge doesn't always have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's as simple as thriving when they thought you couldn't. It's giving opportunities to good people while the ones who wronged you drown in the mess they created. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that my old manager had been demoted. Too many clients had left, too many mistakes had been made, and the higher-ups had lost faith in him. I should have felt triumphant, but what I felt was peace. He had made his choices, and they had caught up with him. Meanwhile, I was happier than I'd ever been. I had a better job, better pay, and a team that respected me. And every time I walked into that bright, modern office, I thought about that day in his office, the day he laughed as he fired me. I thought about how he had said they could pay the new girl half my salary. And I couldn't help but smile, because in the end, his arrogance had built my success. So to anyone who's ever been disrespected or undervalued, don't let it break you. Let it fuel you. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't a big dramatic moment. It's living your best life while they sit in the ruins of their own bad decisions. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what your most satisfying revenge moment has been. There's nothing better than watching karma do its job.